While the early to mid-2000s featured a glut of cheap, rushed-out video games to capitalize on movie releases, I started to think that we'd moved beyond that. The Arkham series was different enough from what Nolan was producing, the LEGO series was distinct and irreverent, and the Guardians of the Galaxy were nowhere near a console. I started to think studios realized that making great games was a smarter business move than churning out a quick cash grab. I was wrong. Hey everybody, Alex here for Nerdy Inc., coming at you with a review of Mad Max. Mad Max's biggest mistake is that it doesn't know what it wants to be. It attempts to juggle elements of racing games, automotive combat games, brawlers, platformers, and RPG adventures, and in so doing it becomes none of those things. It's a hodgepodge of different elements that offer glimpses of what could have been had it committed to a single style of gameplay. The game doesn't flesh out these different elements, and in a desire to boast an impressive playtime and amount of side quests becomes extremely repetitive. The overwhelming majority of what you do in the game is just destroying 3 or 4 types of different outposts. Blowing up gas transfer tanks, bringing down scarecrows, taking out rogue snipers, and clearing camps of enemies. When on the road, you'll need to destroy enemy convoys, clear landmines, and take out larger weapons, but that's pretty much it. The unique elements are saved for big story missions, but those are so few and far between it's barely worth the trouble. The frustration that comes with repetition is only compounded by the game's attempt to up the difficulty as you progress. There aren't many new enemies later in the game, just more of them. The game doesn't become more challenging, it just becomes harder. You'll need to just punch and kick a lot more, rather than think critically about an enemy's unique weak spot. It's rote, redundant gameplay. Think Arkham Knight if the entire game was tank battles. This is an important point I can't stress enough. Challenge versus arbitrary difficulty. New elements require you to think differently. More elements beget nothing new. It's an arbitrary increase in difficulty that requires your fingers to work faster, not your brain. Is the game a complete failure? Absolutely not. While the tasks in the wasteland become stale, the environment remains surprisingly fresh. The map incorporates many distinct landscape types into the desert, and with several repurposed boats, trucks, and buildings, you'll be surprised at how creative some of the designs are. While it's not as rich or nuanced as some other post-apocalyptic environments, it is interesting to explore nonetheless. The same can be said for the character design and story. Mad Max doesn't completely ape off the film's success. Max is a unique model. He's not Mel Gibson or Tom Hardy, and the story is not a retelling of Fury Road. The game's story does attempt to stand on its own 2 feet, so even though it can't make up for the shortcomings in gameplay, it is admirable nonetheless. Mad Max is the perfect example of a background game. You're finished with Phantom Pain and have some time to kill before Fallout 4? Yeah, why not? There's no deep story to keep track of, and the gameplay mechanics are simple enough to remember, so playing a few missions here or there can be fun in between the big releases that will undoubtedly take up more of your time. It's a perfect game to play for an hour or so here or there. It's not suitable for binge playing unless repetition is really your thing. It's not a bad game. Seriously, it's not. It's just painfully average. It's just basic. You can see glimmers of potential all over the place, but at the end of the day, it hasn't been crafted with the dedication needed to make a truly immersive experience. The game only scratches the surface of what could have been. Had it been given an extra year in development to craft a larger story with more varied missions and elements, it probably would have been a much better game. But if that were the case, it would have come out long after the film's debut. And we can't have that now, can we? So, those are our thoughts on Mad Max. If you have thoughts of your own? Let us know in the comments down below. And as always, for more games, comics, news, and more, keep it right here on Nerdy Inc.